Well, what's going on, peeps? It is getting crazy out there. It's about mid-December 2020. Supposedly from the news, there's over here in Southern California, there's like body bags and refrigerators and stuff being set up at the hospitals. It's just getting out of control. This is a Potty Mouth podcast. I screwed it up. We tend to get very excited about stuff. But today I want to talk to you. What I'm excited about is preparation for hard times. I got kind of like a little series going on here to see how well it does. I want to kind of help people out. I've got lots of ideas. I'm an ideas person, somebody who puts stuff into practice. And when I see a problem, I run towards it instead of away from it. And I like to deal with stuff. I do not like to have problems in my life. And today I want to talk about building community and why we should think about building community during these weird circumstances, how hard stuff is to do it yourself. I've got a lot of DIY living techniques that I'm doing that I'm incorporating into my life, but I notice it's a lot of work. And if it's not a lot of work, it's a lot of investment as far as machines and things like that that make your life easier, such as cooking machines and harvesting machines for your own food and solar and all those kind of things. And there's a lot for us to do as individuals, but it would make it a hell of a lot easier. And in some cases, I think it might be wise for us to group up, not necessarily people living together, but creating community within your community, a tight niche of a group to help each other out in case things happen to one another. You know, with this whole COVID thing, somebody gets sick, you know, and you've got chickens or a garden or a solar system or something, you know, and you're out for like a month. It sure would be nice to have somebody you could rely on that would come, maybe possibly not just help you out with your home and your things that you got going on, your day-to-day lives, but maybe even back you up with some food and things like that. And this can go many ways. And there's so much to innovate in here. And I would love to hear from you guys, ideas that you have once you hear the show today, of what you guys would do to implement a local community of sort to sort of back ourselves up, boost our way to freedom, and kind of ease the load and have a little bit of some sort of insurance, I guess. So with that, let's get the show on. Welcome to another edition of Up and Knitted. I'm your host, Adrian Babishoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show is about, it's entirely dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life raw, the way you want. So let's begin today with the story of the stone soup. This is a children's fable, and there's some very, very, very powerful messages in these little stories that are supposed to be just little children's stories. Stone soup, if you've never heard it, there was some travelers, and they sort of did a trick on the community. They came out and they brought some stones. I met them. They came out and they were hungry. They didn't have any food. You know, they were travelers, and they asked people for food. You know, do you have anything to spare? A loaf of bread, whatever. People are like, no, man, I ain't got anything. I'm holding my shit for myself. You know, so they just sat there and got a big old pot, and they threw some stones in it. And they they threw some water in there, and they started boiling stuff up, and they started acting like they were really excited. And, you know, passerbyers would come by every once in a while. I'm kind of just going off giving you guys the main details here. And they'd say, what are you guys doing? It's like, we're making some stone soup here. Care to join us? You know, there's plenty for everybody. And they'd sit there, and he's like, well, yeah, it does kind of sound good. Never had stone soup. And the guys would say, that, oh, man, they taste it and say, you know, what would really make this good is like some carrots or potatoes or something, you know, and it's a little something it's missing, some spice. And the guy got up and said, well, you know what? I've got a couple carrots. Maybe I could throw some carrots in there. That'll help out. I'll be right back. And you guys get where the story's going. Next thing you know, other people came by, and, you know, more and more people are sitting around this big fire with this soup going on. And then people end up bringing potatoes and spices and whatever they can and throwing it together and having a big giant community meal. And that's the skimming of the story, but very powerful. And I think that's something that we might want to consider in our going forth with these crazy times. I think it's very difficult to find the right type of people that are into this. As most people, I think, especially here in the Americas, we're all in it for ourselves. You know, most people are wanting to live independent and not necessarily looking for tribal or community. And I think that a lot of us may be faced where we're going to need stuff like this. A lot of third world countries where I've lived in and visited, it's not necessarily the case. Things are a lot different. So the right type of people, what do we mean by that? I did in my last show, I think I was telling you guys that I wanted to do a Facebook post. So I did, and it was basically of what I'm talking about today. Hey, is there anybody out there that, wants to group up and help those in need, help maybe group up with ourselves, like to help fortify our food production and things like that. And exactly to what my predictions were, there was a lot of people, this is the last thing I wanted, was them telling me, like, I'm following, I'm watching, and I put on there, I'm looking for like-minded individuals. I even posted some out, answered some stuff on there saying, hey, I'm looking for ideas. Here's some ideas I have. Does anybody else have anything else going on, similar, or something they could throw in there, something you could put in the stone soup I'm trying to boil up here, people. And the right type of people, unfortunately, are very few between. And I think that I talk a lot about how this show probably fucking sucks. I don't think a lot of people are into things like this, like community and producing your own food, helping the planet. It's a lot of work, and it goes against the grain. It goes against all the shit that's our systems that are in place right now, and in my opinion, that are falling apart. But and I'm successfully, minimally, if affected at all. Well, I wouldn't say I'm not affected at all by this whole COVID thing, but minimally affected. So my life is very different. My ideologies, my ideas, my reasoning, my purpose is completely different than most people. I am more community. I'm the person that will show up and actually do what they say and actually work. Show up before they're supposed to show up, Somebody who's excited about these things. These things make me feel good. So the right type of people are very, very difficult to find. I think we'd have to sort out a lot. If you trust somebody in your home, I think would probably be a big one with people, coming in and worried about them stealing from you or what. People are weird. There's a lot of strange people out there. So it takes a lot of sorting through to find the right type of people. But generally, I think that people who are into gardening and, saving the planet and eco-friendly stuff are really good people. So the thoughts that I had was to develop a relationship with people and keep trying to see what works, what doesn't work, and doing this long term, just like a love relationship, the way I see it. You don't just get married, you should hang out. You guys should live together for at least like 4 years or so before you decide to get married. Let the honeymoon stages wear off and everything. Find the right person. I found the right gal. I found the right guy. I'm not really necessarily talking in the sexual way, but more in the intimate way of becoming very close friends, and you'd want to find the right type of people. So that's probably the best analogy I can say to explain that aspect of it. It's the same as getting married. So it would take time to develop this, and I think that the sooner we do these things, the better. Because if we do come in time of need, it would very, very be helpful. And I think we should have started stuff like this years ago. And maybe we gotta up our game here if things hit really, really bad. Not saying that things are going to hit bad too. I mean, I have no idea. I think anybody who says they know what's up, they don't know what's up. Nobody knows what's going on here. And the best thing we can do is, whether shit hits the fan or not, the things I practice in my life and the things I like to share on here is that it's gonna make your life better anyways. It's better for the planet, better for you, better for people. So things we should be doing regardless, and that we're just gonna get ahead and not sitting here throwing a bunch of canned food in a cellar in a 55-gallon drum that we're never gonna eat or use. We're actually gonna apply these methods and things to things that we're already using, already doing. So a good investment, a good ROI on everything. And I think the right type of people is definitely a return on investment of your time. I can count maybe on one hand, now I'm lucky, maybe one hand, the amount of people that I know that would definitely have my back, that would be there. And I'm sure it sounds like a lot of people say the same thing. So moving forward, so what my ideas are is to focus on contributions and to solutions only, and focus. We just did a podcast called Focus, the power of focus. So a gentleman by the name of Toby Hemingway, who teaches permaculture, passed away, I think, about 2 years ago of some sort of cancer. And Toby Hemingway wrote a book called Permaculture City, Gaia's Garden, and all these kind of books. Really, really awesome dude. Really knowledgeable. I think he was a professor I think even into the science and biology and stuff. So this guy really came from a hardcore background of a do-gooder. That's what I call him. I think it's actually a word, a do-gooder. But one of the things that hit me like a ton of bricks, he said, was that a lot of us groups and communities focus on the 10% we don't agree about, but hardly ever focus on the 90% that we agree about. And that one hit me, and I will carry that information for the rest of my life. And I think that was one of the most powerful things that I observed, that I focused on and continue to try to utilize in my life, not just for community with the outer part of, say, develop, with other individuals, developing relationships and things like that, but even with yourself. I mean, that's a huge one. So just think about that. We're scared of the 10% of things that could happen within ourselves in our own minds, but not focusing on the 90% and developing the relationships and the skill sets that we have. So instead of focusing on the 90% skills that we have and utilizing those, sometimes we'll go and look at the 10% and go, I just don't know if I can do it. Well, maybe you should start focusing on the 90% of the things that you can do so that you can get to where you need to go. I thought it was one of the most powerful things that, and I'm very happy and pleased to share that with you guys today. But we need to focus on the right type of things. And I think with the contributions and solutions only, once things start to get swayed, we have a group going on and things start to get swayed about religious differences, political differences, and things like that. Somebody, and also the right type of minds, the right type of people who understand this 90-10% and say, let's get back to focusing on contributions and solutions instead of arguing about this stuff. This doesn't help anybody. So I think that's a really good solution of the power of focus to create a good group, and to maybe in some ways to look at this on the opposite spectrum. I almost think it's kind of nice to just let people just go, let them just see, or let them react and let them perform of who they really are. And the ones that you'll see that are focusing more on the 90%, those are the keepers. So basically in my life, it's kind of a dirty trick, but I think it's wonderful. It's a positive, is getting rid of the sloth, the crap, the shit, the fuck faces that want to just fuck things up for no particular reason because they have emotional pornographic fucking problems of their own. Their emotional pornography gets in the way all the time and they got to, interfere. And that shit sucks. And there's a lot of people which I like the saying, a tar baby, is like they're sticky, they're dark, and they're just ugly people, and they're messy, and there's no cleaning them up. They want to be that way. So the sooner we find out who these people are and eradicate them and focus on the people who are the 90s instead of the 10%, I think the better off and faster we get. So contributions and solutions, I think, is a lot of what I teach, or not teach. I hate that word. I like to share. The stuff I share on this show is how to develop that as a muscle and to get solutions. And you got to come up with solutions before you can contribute something. So that's the power that I look in each individual. There's an awesome, I just watched a quick little video of this guy named David Goggins, I guess. And I don't know his whole story, but this dude kind of reminds me of me. He's just up in your fucking face, like, you know what, fuck it, it's raining today, I shouldn't go for a jog, that's why I'm going for a jog. Get out of your comfort zone. Always be, I think he was a Navy SEAL or something, but this dude's just on fire and very inspirational. And I like what he said is what you have in your own head is what you need to deal with. It's the only thing you got, your brain, your thoughts. When you're depressed, you're going through depression by yourself. There's nothing that Facebook or Instagram or movies or food or anything can do. You're dealing with it. So get straight in your head and tell your brain what it is that you want to do and go out there and do it. And I just heard that one this morning when I woke up and was kind of fumbling through some things, which I rarely do. And I'm going to check this dude out, David Goggins. Check him out. I'm no way affiliated. I don't even know. He doesn't even know I exist or nothing. I just wanted to throw it out because he looks very inspirational. So what are some of the contributions, solutions? One of them, I don't really have many. I've been kind of working on stuff in my head. I'm a very busy individual, single dad, own my own business, starting a new business, doing these podcasts. There's so much to go, but I'm slowly every day just giving a few minutes of thought towards this whole concept. And one of the things I got was bulk buying. And if we got a big community together during these hard times, we can purchase things in bulk. And I've already experienced this with gardening by myself. It's not, I don't have a community or nothing, but by buying about $2,000-3,000 worth of gardening soils and things, amendments and things like that in bulk by the pellets, not just for a piece, I actually saved anywhere from 60%, as much as 60%, down to like 20%. Now that's a big savings. If we got a lot of people together and we purchased food, we purchased anything. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I can see this with clothes and shoes and like Dr. Bronner's soap. If you bought a 5-gallon bucket, if they even make them of animal-friendly, biodegradable soaps in a giant 5-gallon bucket, that's enough for like probably 40, 50 people for at least a half a year, a couple months, depending how fucking clean you want to keep yourself, you know. But the list just goes on in the bulk buying. So if we have a bulk buying club, we can present ourselves to other companies and say, we want to buy lettuce or whatever it is, Q-tips, I mean, you name it, but we want a deal. What kind of deal would you give us if we bought a pellet? And if they says, well, we'd have to do it in 2 pellets. So that's kind of what I experienced if anybody was going to use my information today to run forward, was that a lot of these places have a certain number where they get a shipment in and they got to make it worth it for them. So they'll say, well, actually, we got to sell 1,000 of these things in order to get you a discount. And then they give me the number, say 30% discount if you buy 1,000. And I'm like, cool. Well, just out of, curiosity, how much a discount would you give me if I bought double that, like say 2,000? Is that even profitable for you or something, good? And then they would look and go, well, let me see here. Yeah, we could actually, if you went 2,000, we could actually get you 50% off both of them, So people and thoughts and solutions, contributions towards this kind of thinking. I think I'm a business person. I own my own business, so I have this mentality already. But I think if we had other individuals also who were probably better at it, say, than I am, knowing how to barter, or not really barter, but what's the word I'm looking for? When you're trying to sell something, you're kind of working it there, going back and forth and just saying, hey, if we up at this, and we get some better exchange, So yeah, I think the bulk buying would definitely be good in many aspects. And one of the other things I look at is fresh, healthy foods. It's been a very big one of mine, and that's a big part of the show. We're going to do a heck of a lot more on producing your own foods, whether you're, you eat meats, you're vegetarian, you're vegan, what's good for the planet. We got all kinds of stuff down the pipeline coming for you guys. But if one of the things I always say is that if you don't do it for the good of the planet and the good for saving money, just do it for the flavor. So I would love to have a garden club or people who are growing their own foods and stuff, and for us to go and interchange things. Because I think I got it on my note here. Yes, is diversity in location and product. So what a lot of you guys probably don't know is that there's a lot of different climates in cities. There's different biomes. So basically, the way I could explain it is, if you had somebody high on a hill, a lot of their property is going to stay warmer. And if you got like a road or a canyon, I don't know if any of you guys have ever experienced this, early in the morning or late at night, you're walking in the mountains or something. I'm a weirdo. I'd be out in the woods, but you go down like where a creek's at, or even if there's no creek, just this little valley, and all the cold air is rushing down. You see heat rises and cold sinks. So there's actually a river of cold air that's functioning like a body of water running down this little ravine, this little canyon. You can literally feel the change in temperature, sometimes drastically up to like 10 degrees cooler, just down in this little gully or whatever you'd call it. So cities are like this too. We have such things as heat exchanges, thermal inertia. We have, what did they call it? The heat island effect. Being in the roofing industry in sunny side Southern California, we have Title 24 cool roofing, and that's how I found out about this stuff, was that they did like an infrared, and they would show how the streets at nighttime and the roofs of buildings were super, super hot. And everywhere where there was a dirt patch would be cold. So there'd be these red spots of heat and then these blue or green spots of coolness. So by putting cool roofs on, which are heat reflective chemicals and such, you would actually see the heat island effect being reduced. So The thermal inertia means that when the sun comes down, it heats up the streets and brick buildings and concrete and all that kind of stuff. And as the sun goes down and it gets cooler, the city will stay relatively warm, right? But around the perimeters will actually be really, really cold out in the country. I noticed this in the state of Oregon where I lived, where it was icy cold. It was like 32 degrees in Salem, Oregon, where I was living. And as I drove out of the city, it dropped down to like 14 degrees, guys, 50% reduction. And we're not talking a hot area. So we have diversity in things that people could grow in certain areas where other people can't grow. We have diversity also because of certain pests and things like that. Coyotes, raccoons, squirrels. You know, squirrels are probably one of the worst to keep out of your garden. So maybe in the big city, there wouldn't be so much squirrels, you know, or aphids or things like that. And someone's able to grow certain stuff like tomatoes a little bit longer, or just having better luck with different species. So we'd have, by getting a community, you would be able to, at the worst case scenario, trade seeds and stuff like that. But I think we could go a step further, because if people were growing like 5 things, you know, or say they were growing 50 things, and I was growing 25 things in my garden that they can't even seem to grow. Don't you think, even if it wasn't a community and I came and offered and said, hey man, I noticed you ain't got none of these. Would you like to trade some of those? Because I ain't got none of those, you know, and you'd have diversity of products of all kinds of different things. Diversity and specializations is my next one here too, is that I think if there was a community, as I said, I'm in roofing construction and basically in construction general, doing synthetic turfs if I want to, sprinkler repair, flooring, all kinds of different stuff, painting. But I have all of these skills, and if I someday needed, say, a lawyer or something, or a mechanic, and getting this diversity of people all around us, and we develop a relationship, which I've already experienced. I've talked about this on my show before. I used to live in Los Angeles, the armpit of the world. And what I did is my neighbor, he was a mechanic, he'd always have cars out there, and he'd be working on them. And I came out and one morning, and he was just like, oh my God, he's sitting there shaking his head. I was like, hey, what's going on? He's like, roof's leaking, whatever. And I just grabbed my materials, and I went up there and I just patched it for him, and I left. He says, how much do I owe you, whatever. I'm like, don't even worry about it. Let me know if it still leaks. You know, I just put a patch on there for you and no charge, you know. And he's like, all right. One day I had brakes, my wheels were making noises. So he comes over with his buddy, they jack up the front of my truck, take off the wheels, thank you, and squirted out the brake pads and everything. All it was some rocks in there. And I said, how much do I owe you? He says, nothing. And then ever since then, if something happened, you know, as long as it wasn't too huge, we would just trade. He would come over and hey man, did anybody check you out, give you some pointers, whatever. So the point I wanted to make was that there was diversity in specializations. And all that was not even a community. That wasn't even trying. That's just your neighbors. So the power that I see that we can expand outwards in a city to get a lot of different people in here and giving them fresh foods and offering help and bartering and trading, which I think is my next one here. Well, it should be. It's not on my notes, but it should be bartering and trading, you know, and if times get hard, you know, that you have something that you can give for equal value, for value exchange. I think people would be more than happy, as I said, for as far as food and products and saving money, saving the planet. I think a lot of people aren't knowledgeable about these things, that we can, just like everything in the premise of the show, we can save fucking money while healing the motherfucking planet and doing better and healing ourselves. It is fucking possible, and I hope to be your ambassador. That people will adhere to the show, besides my potty mouth and everything else, and my general suckiness of explaining myself, that there's a way, man. There's definitely a way. It's definitely a stress reduction. I would say having a lot of these people, having like basically a bank, you know, having a babysitter if you ever needed it for your property. I think a lot of people who don't know, if you're raising chickens or even a good sized garden, you can't really leave for too long, you know. Unless you do things my way with my garden. But even then, you still can't, you know, my biodegradable container gardening system is almost completely automated, but you still somebody has to go there just to check up on things every once in a while. So it'd relieve a lot of stress and gain you freedom, I think, of having somebody who could come in and actually be a babysitter of some sort, and to know that you got really good friends, say possibly a roofer, a mechanic, a lawyer, who's not going to steer you in the wrong direction, who's going to be honest and give you a really fair value and very good and true information, instead of being ripped off as most of us are, and having business and things done to people who are complete strangers that we're completely, lot in their hands. We're completely just like lost children. Like, I have no idea what they're going to do to my vehicle. I don't even know if they're going to fix it or what. Like, I'm completely vulnerable. And to know that you have somewhat of a community that cares about you, I think would definitely be a stress reduction. And who doesn't need stress reduction in this fucking crazy ass year? So, yeah, it would minimize the burden of cost, I think, labor and time. I think like the Amish is one of my things that I look at. It's not just them. There are other cultures out there, but the Amish would get together and build a barn in like a day, man. The women would get in the kitchen, start cooking up some storm for the men so they could eat. They got the young children and the men out there hammering, tilting stuff up, and everybody just would come, no money, no nothing, and probably stone soup style. Families would come and bring a bunch of stuff, some meats and vegetables, make some stews. Everybody works their asses off, gets it all done within a day or two, and then they all go back to their farm. Somebody needs help, a big group comes over, everybody helps each other. I don't understand why we don't implement these things in our lives now, no matter what case. If you're a leather tramp, a rubber tramp, you're living on the streets basically in a car. If you're a leather tramp, you're running on, barefoot or no car. If you live in the city, if you live in the country, no matter what you're doing, whether you're rich, poor, the more I think diversity and the more that we implement community with the right type of people, though, the better our lives could be, and very, very fast. But the development of that relationship, again, I think is the key. So I got one more here for you guys. Is I've been working on specific details. And one is I would like my own meat. I don't know how to do cows. I don't know how to do lamb. I don't know how to do deer, elk, or anything like that, fish. But chickens is one that I kind of have a good idea, because it's probably one of the best things that I'm pretty knowledgeable about. Coming from South America, well, I lived in South America, and we had probably like 250, 300 chickens, and I was responsible for feeding. I've butchered them. I've done everything, harvested eggs, helped them with their babies, and all kinds of different, herded them. But one of the ideas I have is if somebody was doing chicken, right? They're raising chickens, say, for eggs, and they were doing it maybe small or even medium scale, but they had the property to do it larger. I'm going to share with you guys, not teach, I'm going to share with you guys some tricks here that I know, is that if we implemented some of the things earlier on that I said, was that let's just say Bob has got the chickens and we all said, is there anybody who wants to do this like on larger scale? Here's the deal. All of the community that say Adrian got together, we're going to buy the feed for you. You don't even need to have the feed. I mean, you have the feed. We're going to buy the feed. You don't need to pay for anything. You just take care of the flocks and you make sure they're in every night and everything, and we'll pay for all of that stuff. We'll even pay for a butcher, say, to come in and butcher, and then we'll divvy up all the meats. And the good thing is that we're all going to buy in bulk, remember? A big giant pallet of chicken feed, so we may be able to get it 20 to 30 to 40, maybe even 50% off, depending on how much bulk we buy. We can buy bulk and baby chickies. And all of us, a community coming in together, lowers the burden of cost and also labor and time. So we got these chickens. Right now we got some meat going on, but that's not all we got. Now what we got is somebody who wants to garden. Because what we would do with these chickens is we'd actually raise them fucking humanely. Instead of, did you guys know that the organic chickens free range means that a chicken, all it needs is like, I think it was like 5 or 10 minutes a day outside. And they call that free range. And outside means it's in this little fucking 10 by 10 foot area that's concrete, straight up like Green Mile shit, or, it's your turn to go outside, like prison shit. So I would rather have paddocks. And people who don't know, these are very large squares. Let's just say that we're going to make this simple, that we had an acre. And on that acre, we're going to split it in 4s. So we put all the chickens, say 500 chickens on a quarter acre, and they'd all free range, they'd all run around, they got a chicken coop and everything that's on wheels. And what we're going to do is they're going to eat all the weeds and bugs and things like that, and they're going to tear up the ground, right? They're going to eat up all the weed seeds that they're very, very good at. They're going to poop everywhere, which gives us fertilizer for the soil. Some of you probably already know where I'm going with this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to open up the gate. We're going to put them in, say, the quarter acre over, which we'll number these 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So we move them all to the second paddock, the second quarter acre area. And this is all fenced off. So what we do is we bring somebody who wants to garden now. They go into that square number 1 where the chickens started out, where they pecked all the weeds down to nothing. They dug the soil up, ate almost all the weed seeds and everything, left a bunch of poop on the ground. Now we till up that soil and we start growing some crops, right? Now the chickens are over in field number 2. As they begin to rummage through that area and everything, we keep moving them from paddock number 3. Number 2 starts to heal up and some weeds start to grow. We start to irrigate it and get all those seeds out, right? There's some food for them basically. Meanwhile, in plot number 1, we've got lettuces and tomatoes, depending on what type of year, of course. As soon as the harvest is done, we rotate those chickens in a circle to field number 4, to the last quarter acre. And by the time they get there, the gardener is going to harvest all of his food and everything, and we're also going to distribute that to the community, right? Now when we're done with that, the gardener does nothing. He just cuts the top of the lettuces off, the spinaches, leaves the roots, all the tomatoes that we're not able to harvest, you leave the bush, you leave everything. The chickens will come mow all that stuff down. Maybe we'll get a bunch of compost and scraps from people's homes, like all their vegetable scraps. We'll make a big giant mountain in the middle of paddock number 1 where the garden was, and let those chickens eat that, which they will, and they'll scatter everything all out, lawn clippings and things like that, and they will actually tear it up, and they'll actually spread everything and prepare the soil for the gardener for next year when we come, or whenever it is. And so the gardener just keeps chasing the chickens around in a circle. We've got residuals now from all the foods that we just grew, as far as the plants and things like that actually reduces the amount of chicken feed that we need because the chickens can rummage. All the scraps and everything, whether we use that for compost, if we had the community come in, all of the people who brought in 5-gallon buckets full of their bread and, banana peels and stuff like that, we can either start a compost pile or we can feed partially those things to the chickens. But either way, we've got a development, we have a relationship, a symbiotic relationship here going on where we can manipulate this thing into something beautiful and something a lot more, less labor intensive, a lot less stress, and good for the planet, good for the chickens, good for us. We got eggs, we got chickens who are actually laborers who are working as farmers. We've got meat, we've got the feathers if we wanted to for down. We got all kinds of different things. We've got food growing, and we have, for the best part of all of this is because it simply feels good. It feels really good to see animals. I know some people have problems with butchering animals. They're vegans or vegetarians, they're just against all that. But when you see that the animals and stuff grown in this way, working in relation for not just meat, you wouldn't, not saying you'd have to butcher them. Even those you people who are vegans and are against butchering, utilize the chickens that will live a happy life. And if you do it right, you probably won't even have to feed them. They'll feed themselves. You got insects coming that are attracted to the garden. Let the chickens come in and eat them. So in all of this, though, I think with community and implementing something like this, not only is it a safety net, is it a backup, is it a babysitter, as it is friends, it's because it makes you feel good. And I think that we are meant to live this way. And I think that it improves quality of life for people and planet. And I think it's very liberating. And I think to try to live just a solely independent life with ourselves is possible. I am currently working on that. That's where this my entire life's work is going, is how do I do this alone if I can't find the right type of people? But I still have hope. And as I opened up with this show, I think that the hope that I have is kind of dwindling. And when I say that is just watching people throw their rubber gloves and their masks in the Costco and grocery parking lots. The general attitude, the way people have been acting with this COVID thing really shined out. Remember how I said it was the best thing we could ever do is just let people be their true selves so that we can see how fucked up they really are and notice, like get it out of the bag so you can say, well, if they did that to that person or treated things like that, how would they treat me? You know, I think that's a big lesson I try to teach my kids. Be mindful, be respectful. You know, don't respect anybody who doesn't respect you. But, you know, to know who's who is very difficult. People are conniving and liars. But people are fucking lazy, and I think that they're dirty. And I don't want to turn this negative, but I think it is a positive to find out who's who. And unfortunately, the majority, let's just keep it at that, in my book, suck. They suck a big fucking fat one. And there's some stupid, I don't think they're stupid, just lazy fucking people who don't really give a shit, I think, even about themselves, let alone the planet and the animals and the people and the insects. And I just think that they're dirty people. And we need to group up together so that we can have camaraderie, I hope. And we could be with people who are like-minded and that want to get ahead and that want to, you know, not just make money, but make money in a symbiotic way, in a way that's renewable, that makes you feel good about what you do. Because especially if you're in sales, if you were selling something that you felt good, that you believed 100%, you'd sell it off the charts. Your confidence is just there. That's how I sell my stuff. I believe 100% in myself. My clients, I think, they pick up on it and they really like the vibe and they're like, let's do this. So that's the show, guys. Didn't mean to get too crazy for you at the end, but it's freedom, dude. It's my show. I get to say whatever the fuck I want, and it's my freedom time. And as I said, I want people who feel the same way. I want people who, you know, are actually going to make stuff happen instead of talk about it. So, yeah, that was probably too much, but that's it, guys. You guys, it's Up and In It, the show. You can check it out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the Apple iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and all that. And as I always say, guys, go out there and have yourself a near-life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Human up. Carry on the fire. Live it, love it, own it. Bone it, my friends.